The Valkyrie cut to the murky atmosphere of Orton 6, its sleek hull gleaming under the twin suns. This was humanity's first diplomatic mission to the Zelvari, a biomechanical species that prided itself on cold efficiency. The stakes were high, but Captain Elias Carter had never been one to buckle under pressure. He glanced at his crew, each absorbed in their tasks. Dr. Mira Patel hunched over her datapad, cross-referencing Zelvari physiology. Jonas J.J. Jackson sat nearby, murmuring translations of the alien language. Rick Dawson, ever the wild card, reclined with his boots up, flipping a wrench in his hands. Touchdown in 2 minutes, the ship's AI announced. Elias exhaled, adjusting his uniform. All right, people. First contact went well last time. Let's make sure this one doesn't end with blasters in our faces. Ah, come on, Rick grinned. They love us. They tolerate us, Mira corrected, eyes still scanning data. Barely. JJ, ever the dreamer, smiled. They'll come around. The Zelvari think we're crude, but they underestimate human ingenuity. The ship settled onto platform with a hiss. The bay doors slid open, revealing a delegation of Zelvari officials. They were tall, their synthetic exoskeletons a seamless blend of flesh and machine. Their leader, a being called Archivist Velan, stepped forward. Humans, Velan intoned, his voice resonating in the still air. You return. Elias stepped forward with practiced ease. We appreciate the invitation. Humanity values cooperation. Cooperation is secondary to efficiency, Velan replied. Do not waste time. The delegation led them to the towering structures of the Zelvari capital, jagged spires of metal and biotech, pulsating with artificial life. Humanity had never seen a civilization so utterly engineered. JJ walked in awe. They treat everything like a machine, even themselves. Rick snorted. Bet they've never seen duct tape. The group entered a high-rise overlooking the city. Velan gestured toward a platform encircled by a strange gravitational field. Observe, this is our latest development in matter manipulation. It has eliminated construction inefficiencies. Elias, ever curious, stepped forward. He felt the pull of the field as his boots met the platform. Impressive. Then, something went wrong. A tremor rippled through the structure. The field pulsed violently. In an instant, the gravity inverted, and Elias was ripped upward. The last thing he saw before blacking out was his team's horrified faces. Pain. Elias drifted between consciousness and agony. He barely registered the sterile white room or the low hum of machinery. His limbs felt foreign, unresponsive. Myra's voice cut through the haze. Elias? Can you hear me? His throat was dry. Yeah. What happened? You fell. JJ's voice was tight with emotion. 20 meters. Direct spinal impact. Elias swallowed. That bad, huh? Mira hesitated. Your spine is shattered. The Zelvari say it's irreversible. Velan entered, his mechanical eyes scanning Elias. Your organic body has failed. A defect beyond repair. You must be replaced. Elias forced a smirk. Hate to disappoint you, but I'm not a toaster you can swap parts in. Velan tilted his head. Your species is inefficient. In our culture, an injury of this magnitude means removal from function. Rick's voice cut in. Yeah? Well, in our culture, we don't leave people behind. The room tensed. The Zelvari exchanged unreadable glances. To them, Elias was beyond saving, an obsolete unit. But to his team, giving up wasn't an option. Elias exhaled. He was broken, but not beaten. So what's the plan? Myra's eyes burned with determination. We fix you, with or without their help. Velan's expression was unreadable. Impossible. JJ's lips curled into a knowing smile. You haven't met humans. The battle wasn't over. It had just begun. The Zelvari High Council chamber was as sterile as the creatures that inhabited it, metallic, seamless, and devoid of warmth. Archivist Velan stood before the gathered officials, his synthetic gaze fixed on the 4 humans before him. Elias Carter remained seated, his body unmoving below the waist, but his eyes burned with something the Zelvari did not comprehend. Defiance. Your persistence is illogical, Veland said. Your leader is broken. Function has ceased. Accept reality. Rick Dawson scoffed. And here I thought this was a civilization of geniuses. He crossed his arms, leaning against the polished alloy wall. You seriously can't fix a spine? Veland's expression did not change. Efficiency demands replacement, not repair. A damaged unit is discarded. Yeah. Well, we're not units. Mira Patel snapped, stepping forward. We adapt. We rebuild. A ripple of static passed through the Zelvari delegates. Their equivalent of murmurs. Veland regarded her for a long moment. Adaptation is inefficient. Jonas J.J. Jackson smirked. Tell that to evolution. The Zelvari said nothing. Mira exhaled sharply. If you won't help, we'll do it ourselves. Veland tilted his head. You lack the technology. Rick grinned. Buddy, you have no idea what we can do with scrap and a deadline. Back in the Valkyrie, the ship's dim lights cast long shadows as Mira, Rick, and JJ huddled around a hollow display of Elias's shattered spine. The medical scan was brutal. Shards of bone, nerve damage beyond conventional repair. The Zelvari were right about one thing. This was an easy fix. Elias watched from his med chair, arms crossed. So, tell me you have a plan, and not just blind optimism. Myra's brow furrowed. We have pieces of a plan. We can't regrow your spine, but... She tapped a section of the scan, overlaying a schematic. The Zelvari's neural integration tech could work if modified. Their synthetic augmentations are designed for efficiency, not adaptability. But if we splice their neural interface with human biofeedback, your body might accept it. Rick cracked his knuckles. Translation: we turn you into a cyborg, but a cool human kind, not the emotionless alien kind. Elias exhaled. Risks? Mira hesitated. Nerve rejection. Bioincompatibility. Potential organ failure. Elias chuckled. So a Tuesday. JJ, ever the optimist, leaned in. But if it works, you'll walk again. And the Zelvari will witness something they think is impossible. Elias met their gazes. Then let's do the impossible. The problem with cutting-edge alien tech was that it wasn't meant for human hands. Mira spent hours dissecting the Zelvari's neural implants, muttering under her breath. Rick ran calibration tests, occasionally cursing when circuits fried under stress. JJ, ever the diplomat, kept the Zelvari occupied, feeding them philosophical riddles about resilience and quoting ancient Earth poets to keep their logic-driven minds distracted. Elias endured the waiting with his usual dry humor, but frustration simmered beneath the surface. He wasn't used to being sidelined. He wasn't used to feeling broken. Rick dropped onto a chair beside him, wiping sweat from his brow. All right, Cap, we're close, but Mira says the neural sync might be a problem. Define problem. Your brain might not like it. Elias smirked. I'll tell it to get over it. Rick chuckled. See, that's the spirit. Humans, too stubborn to stay down. Across the room, Mira let out a victorious yell. Got it. Everyone turned. The hollow display flickered, showing a newly integrated schematic. A human spine reinforced with Zelvari neural mesh. Theoretically, it could work. Practically, no one knew. Mira looked at Elias. You ready for this? He nodded. Let's make history. The operation was a mix of precision and sheer human audacity. The Zelvari had refused to assist, calling procedure reckless, but that didn't stop them from watching. Veland and his scientists observed from a distance, convinced the humans were throwing their leader's life away. Elias felt the cold press of the surgical frame around his body as Mira and Rick worked. His nerves burned as the implant was fused into place. Then darkness. For a moment, silence reigned. Then a spark. Elias gasped. His fingers twitched. A rush of sensation flooded his spine, like fire igniting dormant pathways. His body trembled, then stilled. Myra's voice was careful. Elias. He opened his eyes, and then he moved his foot. JJ let out a breathless laugh. Rick hooped. Mira covered her mouth, eyes shining. From across the room, Veland's mechanical eyes widened ever so slightly. Elias grinned. Told you we adapt. The Zelvari had no words. Their logic dictated that Elias should have remained crippled, a failed organic husk. And yet, here he was, standing, moving. Impossible. Velan stepped forward. This defies reason. JJ smirked. No, it defines humanity. Mira across her arms. You dismissed us because we weren't efficient. But resilience beats efficiency. Elias took a slow step forward. His legs were unsteady, but they held. He met Velan's gaze. Now, are you ready to learn something from us? The Zelvari did not answer, but they did not leave, either, and that was a start. Elias Carter took his first step, then another. The ground beneath his boots felt both foreign and familiar, as if his body were relearning something it was never supposed to forget. Every motion sent a jolt through his nerves, a clash of organic instinct and alien augmentation. Rick Dawson let out a triumphant whistle. Well, look at that. The captain's back on his feet. Next thing you know, he'll be running marathons. Mira Patel stood frozen, her analytical mind wrestling with the impossibility of what she was seeing. This shouldn't be happening, she murmured, though awe laced her voice. Jonas, J.J. Jackson grinned. Oh, it's happening. And you know what that means. He turned to the Zelvari delegation, arms outstretched in theatrical fashion. You, my biomechanical friends, have just witnessed the birth of something new. Archivist Velan, ever composed, narrowed his glowing eyes. This was not meant to be. Elias smirked, rolling his shoulders as if shrugging off fate itself. Well, that's the thing about humans. We don't care what's meant to be. He took another step, steadier now. We make things happen. The room buzzed with tension. The Zelvari had spent centuries perfecting their biomechanical systems, refining themselves into what they considered the pinnacle of efficiency. And yet, in mere days, humans had taken their technology, merged it with fragile organic tissue, and created something entirely outside the realm of Zelvari logic. Velan studied Elias like a paradox that refused to solve itself. This fusion of machine and biology is crude, inelegant. Rick barked a laugh. Yeah, but it works. Mira, still watching Elias's movements with scientist fascination, folded her arms. Your technology is superior in many ways, but you never considered adaptability. You replace what breaks. We rebuild. Velan's mechanical fingers twitched in what might have been frustration. Efficiency dictates replacement. JJ, still enjoying the spectacle, leaned in. And what happens when you come across something that can't be replaced? What do you do then? Silence. The Zelvari had no answer. Elias took another step, then another, pacing now. The sensation was surreal, like learning to walk all over again. Except this time, his spine wasn't just his. It was human ingenuity stitched together with alien perfection, a defiant testament to the species the Zelvari had dismissed as inefficient. He stopped and faced Velan. You said I was obsolete. He clenched his fist, feeling strength return to limbs that should have never moved again. Do I look obsolete to you? For the first time, Velan hesitated. The Zelvari may not have believed in failure, but they did believe in observation, and so they watched. Elias spent the next several hours testing the limits of his reconstructed body. Walking turned into jogging. Jogging turned into a short, shaky run. Every step sent bursts of discomfort through his nervous system, but he pushed forward, stubborn as ever. Mira monitored his vitals like a hawk. Neural response is stabilizing, but the implant is running at 87% efficiency. There's a chance of system lag or misfire. Elias wiped sweat from his brow. So, don't pick a fight with anyone just yet? Rick grinned. I wouldn't recommend it, but I'd sure love to see you punch an alien. JJ snickered. Purely in the name of scientific testing, of course. Velan, who had remained silent, finally spoke. This experiment of yours has proven functional, but its stability is questionable. Our systems are designed for uniformity, not adaptation. Mira turned to him, arms crossed. And that's why we succeeded where you wouldn't have even tried. We don't wait for perfection. We make things work. Velan's mechanical eyes flickered. That is dangerous. Elias exhaled, stretching his fingers. Maybe, but it's also how we survive. The tension should have ended there. But of course, things were never that easy. An alarm blared through the chamber, pulsing red light over the walls. Zelvari voices crackled over comms in their rapid, clinical dialect. JJ tensed. That's not a congratulations. You broke science kind of alarm, is it? Velan turned sharply. Unknown force detected in orbit. Infiltration attempt. Before he could finish, the ceiling trembled. A deafening boom rocked the building. Dust and metal shards rained down. Rick grabbed Elias before he could stumble. You just had to start walking on the day we get attacked, huh? Elias grimaced. Wouldn't be the first time. The Zelvari's pristine halls erupted into chaos as security drones mobilized. Mira pulled up a holo display, scanning the incoming data. It's not Zelvari. Unknown ship. No official ID. JJ's expression darkened. Pirates. Worse, Mira said. Mercs. Elias steadied himself. His body still ached, but adrenaline dulled the pain. Then let's give them a warm welcome. Velan studied him, unreadable. You intend to fight? Elias grinned, cracking his knuckles. Told you. We adapt. The next battle had already begun. The walls shuddered with another impact. Sirens howled through the Zelvari complex as security drones mobilized, their sleek forms gliding down the corridors with eerie precision. Through the high windows, streaks of light carved across the sky, ships engaging in violent, silent dogfights above the city. Elias Carter rolled his shoulders, testing the limits of his newly reinforced spine. The dull ache remained, but his legs held firm. No time for hesitation now. Rick Dawson ducked as a tremor shook the structure. Well, Cap, you want a field test. This ought to do it. Mira Patel swiped through a rapidly scrolling feed of security diagnostics, her fingers a blur over the interface. I don't recognize their energy signatures. Whoever they are, they're using tech even the Zelvari don't have cataloged. Jonas, JJ, Jackson tightened his grip on the alien pulse pistol he borrowed. Mercs wouldn't hit a place like this unless they were paid a lot of money. He glanced at Velan. Any enemies you forgot to mention? Archivist Velan stood rigid, his mechanical gaze locked on the security feed. We have no adversaries. We eliminate inefficiencies before they become threats. Elias gave him a dry look. Yeah? Well, seems like someone slipped through your perfect little system. A blast rocked the outer wall, sending a cascade of debris through the corridor. Through the swirling dust, figures emerged, tall, armored beings with insectal visors and heavy plasma weapons. Their armor bore no insignia, only smooth black plating that absorbed the light. One of them stepped forward, voice filtered through a crackling modulator. Target acquired. Elias recognized that tone. Professional, detached. These weren't pirates. They were specialists. Assassins. He clenched his fists. Guess they don't want us leaving alive. Rick cracked his neck. Good thing I never liked sticking to the plan. The first shot came fast, a streak of blue light aimed straight at Elias's chest. He dodged, barely, the movement quicker than it should have been. The neural mesh in his spine flared, translating instinct into speed. Myra's voice was sharp. Elias, your nervous system isn't fully calibrated yet. Noted, he gritted out, throwing himself behind cover as another bolt singed the air where he'd been standing. Rick and JJ returned fire, their weapons blazing in the dim corridor. Zelvari drones swarmed the intruders, but the mercenaries cut them down with brutal efficiency. These weren't just hired guns. They were prepared for Zelvari defenses, which meant the only wild card here was humanity. Elias launched forward, his movements fueled by adrenaline and stubborn defiance. The first merc didn't expect him to close the distance so fast. Elias drove an elbow into their visor, sending them staggering. The second raised their weapon, but Rick was faster, tackling them into a wall. JJ's voice rang out. More incoming. Mira scanned the hallway, then turned to Velan. You must have a failsafe, some kind of override for external threats. Velan hesitated. We do not experience external threats. Rick dodged a strike, grunting. Yeah, well, welcome to our reality. Elias fought through the pain, slamming a stolen pulse baton into another attacker's chest plate. Mira, fix this. She scowled, then yanked Veland toward the nearest console. Override your defense network. Turn the security grid into an offense system. Veland's hesitation was infinitesimal, but it was there. The Zelvari had never been attacked before, never failed before. JJ leaned in. You said efficiency matters, right? Then adapt. Now. Something shifted in Veland's expression. Perhaps it was the undeniable proof standing before him. The human who shouldn't have walked, fighting against an enemy that shouldn't have been here. With a single, decisive motion, Veland activated the console. The Zelvari defense grid responded instantly. The once passive drones switched tactics, their smooth limbs unfolding into razor-sharp appendages. Plasma turrets emerged from the walls, unleashing a calculated onslaught of firepower. The mercenaries faltered. They had planned for Zelvari resistance, but not for a system learning in real time. Rick let out a laugh. Now that's what I call efficiency. The tide turned swiftly. Within minutes, the remaining mercenaries were either incapacitated or retreating, their dark ships breaking formation and pulling away from the Zelvari capital. The battle was over. Elias exhaled heavily, his muscles burning, his nerves alight with exhaustion. But he was standing. He was standing. And the Zelvari had witnessed it all. The council chamber was silent. The remaining Zelvari delegates studied Elias and his crew with something dangerously close to curiosity. Veland stood at the head of the room. We have witnessed an anomaly. His mechanical gaze settled on Elias. You should not have survived. Elias smirked. Yeah, I get that a lot. Mira crossed her arms. Your way isn't wrong, Veland, but it's incomplete. She glanced at Elias. Efficiency is valuable, but adaptability? That's power. Veland was silent for a long moment. Then, in a gesture that might have been respect, he inclined his head. There is much to learn. JJ grinned. Glad you're finally catching on. Elias rolled his shoulders, his new spine settling into place. He could feel the weight of the moment, the shift in how the Zelvari saw them. Humanity had done what they always did, walked into the impossible, and made it work. Veland studied them for a moment longer. Then, in a tone far less rigid than before, he asked, What comes next? Elias smiled. Let's find out.